I'm Sharon Savidson. Welcome to my podcast, Uplevel Your Life with Sharon. I'm a certified coach and a holistic practitioner. I'm also a mother of 2 adult children. I started this podcast so that I can give you bite-sized pieces and tools that you can take away with you, so that you can use these in your daily life. In all of my years of practice, my clients have told me that it helps them to have specific tools that they can use and practice on a daily basis. So, I want to provide you with many tools, and then you can decide which of the tools resonate with you that you can use on a daily basis or when you need them. So whether you are feeling frustrated with life or you're just looking to enhance your life, this podcast is for you. If you are ready to uplevel your life, you're in the right place. So let's move forward together. Welcome back, everybody. I have a very special guest with me here today who I hold very dear to my heart, and I will tell you all about that. And Amy Horsting is here with us. Amy, thank you so much for joining me. I didn't know whether you'd say yes or no, but I'm really happy and excited to have you here.
Well, it's good to see you as always.
So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Amy before I tell you our connection. Amy is a metaphysician and clairvoyant, skilled in the psychic arts. After a near-death experience as a child, Amy had visions of the future and prophetic dreams, which forced her to gain control of her abilities. She became a student of metaphysics and comparative religions, studying Tibetan Buddhists, Hindu and Taoist meditation techniques, astrology, both Western and Eastern, tarot, numerology, the chakra system, the movement of prana or chi in the energy bodies, mantra, I Ching, trance channeling, mediumship, hatha yoga, and tai chi. Her clients include individuals seeking to understand their life's path, and she has served as a consultant to psychologists with challenging cases. She teaches meditation, yoga, and tai chi, and is dedicated to helping others achieve balance, radiant awareness, and inner peace. So, I chose the long bio version,
Okay.
and I'll tell
It
you.
sounded like a lot once you started
Well, it
talking.
is a lot because I want people to know all of the things that you do. But I'm going to share with our audience how I met you and what our journey's been. Because I kind of feel to a certain extent that I'm sitting here doing this partly because of you.
Wow.
So I met you in 2012. I was looking back at when Amy was teaching yoga at the Calabasas Swim and Tennis Center, and I was going to the swim and tennis center, but then I ended up actually teaching cycling at the center. And I would go into Amy's classes, and I loved her classes. And one day I'd been gone for a little bit. Something happened in my life, and I'd been gone. And I went in to basically just tell Amy why I'd been MIA, and it had to do with an illness in the family. And so that was when Amy shared to me. Amy was just the yoga teacher. I didn't know her as anything else. We hadn't we were friends, but we hadn't spent like a lot of time like really knowing what each other did, etc. And that was when Amy shared with me that she was an astrologer and a few other things. And I was like, wow. Well, it was pretty soon after that something happened in my life, and I went to Amy. And from that time on, way back, Amy became one of my go-to consultants. And I would always sit there thinking, should I go to therapy or should I go to Amy? And I'm going to tell you, 99.9% of the time, I went to Amy because I walked away with such wisdom about myself, about my karma, about the connection with my children and how I should move forward. And I would revisit our sessions, which I transcribed, and I just always took something away with it. I do think that I made Amy mad, I will tell you. I think that Amy,
You never made me mad.
I think
Things more than that, you
frustrated
made
was
me
the word.
laugh.
Because Amy always saw me doing something and I was just very slow in picking it up because it was a process, right?
Yeah, it's always a process.
You that you were you were a profound, you had a profound impact on my life.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear. I mean, what I do and what psychologists do are two, I've worked with them, so they're very practical, they get you through that day and they give you ways to get through that day. And where I go is a much more mystical, sort of odd place. But it's funny you say resistance because even when I've had other people and when I worked with other psychics and people, and we all worked together, we would come to moments in our readings that where we just really felt that resistance. We were like, and it starts to be like, oh, there's pay dirt. Oh, we've really found a rich mine now because that resistance is a sign that you've hit a place that you need to kind of focus on.
Right. Amy, I did not know actually until I read your bio that you had had a near-death experience. So
Oh,
can you tell
didn't
us,
know that, huh?
no, can you tell us how you got here? Like, what's your path been? Yeah, what's your journey been to get to where you are?
Well, when I was a kid, I had a near-death experience. It was kind of an operation that where they had to, it was kind of touch and go. And then I did survive that, but it was quite uh, the lead up to it. I experienced a lot of hallucinatory things, which was how I knew it was that serious. But when I came back, um, I had changed to some degree, like I had changed. And I then would have kind of dreams and visions that would come to pass. So as a kid, that's just weird. And you grow up in the family you grow up in, you don't even know what's, weird and what's not weird. But so there came a point in time where it got weird enough, like where I felt like I had to get it under control. And that's when I went and started to learn a lot of techniques. Now, those techniques eventually led back to very classical techniques. You might start with a few new age things, but you eventually have to kind of follow that thread back to the earlier techniques, which are the meditative techniques. And astrology is one of those very ancient techniques that help you to sort of interpret the things that are coming in. It's almost like when you start realizing you have any kind of psychic ability, and all people can have this, it's
Right.
not like I'm special. It's just that it's sometimes the impressions and the information you get comes at you at a great speed, and you're kind of just as wigged out as anybody else when it comes to pass. Like you have a dream and then it comes true. It's pretty freaky. And then you realize as you move back through these techniques that there are ways to control it, there are ways to focus your energy. There are ways to start to understand the process your mind, everybody's mind is going through, where we experience internal energy and we project it onto external objects. And
Right.
then we experience those external objects according to our own pain, our own trauma, or if you're in my sort of shoes, as far as I believe, past lives. So we can sort of see that past life energy through astrology. We can perceive it. We can see into an energy that preceded the person coming in to a physical vehicle.
We spoke a lot about that
Yeah.
because you would do a combination of the astrology and then also cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Like when
psychic.
I read someone, the first thing I want to do is look at their astrological chart because that holds the key to why they came here, what they came here to learn, what they're trying to experience here. And it'll be a kind of direction they're moving in, but it's not always an easy direction. Sometimes they're moving in this direction, they feel compelled to go in this direction, but there's pulls from the past. There's
Right.
pulls from the past, and there's skills that they've acquired from the past. And sometimes they're very good at these past life skills, and those past life skills they get attached to and they like to kind of solve problems with those past life skills, and the new skill set is they're not used to it yet. So once I orient myself like that and sort of see what that soul is up against, because they are sometimes compelled to have families, or they're compelled to learn to partner with people, or they're compelled to learn to handle their own business and be kind of independent, or whatever it is, then we can just sort of look at the straight energy.
Right.
And when I use cards, I'm just using that as a symbolic sort of spark to ignite what I perceive on an energy level.
It's like confirmation a little bit, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's confirmation. Sometimes the cards, they fall in a way that is shockingly on point. I mean, where you're
Right.
just like, well, you're like, really?
Right.
It just seems shockingly on point. But any card, just for those people who read tarot, okay, you can learn all tarot from a formal book. You can learn the formal meanings, but you are going to throw cards for someone, and you're going to look at a card, and it's going to mean something different for this person or
Right.
for this person.
Right.
Now, the more you learn, the more you acquire kind of different symbol systems, the more the energy can kind of communicate with you, because cosmic energy, higher energy, whatever you want to call it, it communicates not necessarily verbally unless you're channeling directly, but it does communicate very well through a symbol system or through large downloads of kind of vibrant energy and a knowing that you have, just a knowing that you have. And a lot of learning to read people is really just learning to trust what you're getting.
It's funny. And I had
You
a
noticed that too.
well, that's what happens with me. But I had a client yesterday, and so I get the knowing. I get something will pop into my head, or I just receive it, right?
Yeah.
And the clients that have been with me for a while, I'll say, okay, sometimes it's just I start laughing because what I'm being given is should I share this? Should I not share it? And so when I said to this client yesterday, I said, okay, I'm just going to share with you. And she was like, bring it on. I'm used to it. What do I need to know? Right. And it was a way of having her move forward. But I trust what gets downloaded. But Amy, there's something that I want to ask you. And you know that I've asked this question many, many times.
Yeah.
I now think I've gotten an answer after like 8 years, and not necessarily from you. I was always curious to know about when someone reads your chart,
Mm.
is it an absolute? Like if your chart, your astrology chart says this is what's going to happen to you, is that what's going to happen to you? And I know that you have your natal chart, and then you also have the transits, because I've experienced that enough. In fact, my aunt was an astrology reader, she was an astrologer. And then also, the other part of that is when you go to people that read your cards, I can tell you how many times people have been wrong with me. I mean, you're the one that I say to, give me a date, tell me when, Amy, and you'd be not telling you, like, I can't tell you, but just, how come you give someone else a date and you don't give me a date? And you're like, well, it depends on this and this and this. And I'd be, so can you speak a little bit to the absolute of when someone reads your chart or when you go to, someone reads your cards?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question for a lot of reasons, because people that are navigating psychic readings, or anyone who works shaman or astrologer, anyone who works in these sort of fields, we are I can see why people who are thinking of getting a reading like that are concerned, because you don't want some crazy cult leader telling you that this is the way it is. Like, it's so a few things that I would have to say about this. One, there is always free will. On this level of reality, the whole point of this level of reality is free will. Now, you could call this place a test, or maybe it's some sort of, artificial computer program that we're all living in. I don't know. But there's free will is an important component. So no one can ever tell you absolutely something's going to go this way, right? So that's number one. They
I
cannot
tried.
tell you that.
I
Yeah, you
tried.
can try. I mean, I wish someone would tell me. No, that's why you can't really predict the lottery, or you can't really predict things like that. There's a kind of movement of energy that shifts depending on the decisions you make.
Right.
So now there's other theories like that there's many, many timelines, and that,
Right.
that, which is possible. Maybe there are sliding doors and many timelines too. But because of this free will aspect to it, no one can ever tell you it's absolutely going to be like this. Now, when you have a prophetic dream, uh, you know, I'm an explorer of all this the same way anyone who's listening to this is an explorer of all this. But why is that we sometimes get a dream? Why is it that we sometimes get a dream that is absolutely on point? And I can't say I know the answer to that. Like, either the decision has already been made by someone, and you're not really seeing the future as much as you're seeing a decision that is about to happen, that's being carried out. Someone decides to go to war. They're going to go to war. So you get a dream about war just before the war happens. That's not necessarily you're leaping into the future. Perhaps you are just connecting to another mind on a quantum level, and you're
Right.
experiencing that. So whenever you're reading someone, it's from that present moment. Like, it's how their energy is at that present moment, and what is starting to appear as the future is dependent on the present moment, and how their mind is right now. Now, having said that, you can affect the future through changing the present moment. So if you can change your consciousness, if you can shift your consciousness, you can change the future.
So when you talk about energy, right, we attract wherever we vibrate. So if you're vibrating, which is, we've spoken about this a lot, when you're
Yeah,
vibrating at a very low negative energy, you can't expect to attract something that has a high frequency, because it's a mismatch of frequency.
yeah, exactly. Now that's a very interesting concept you brought. That's sort of like the I forget what that book was called. Uh, you know, the uh the Celestine prophecy or something,
Right.
like, where if you think hard enough, if you have enough wish boards, if you try to raise your frequency, that you will attract a like energy. And it's basically true to an extent. But there's a part of your consciousness that is unconscious, that is deep,
95%.
that is hidden. Yeah, exactly. Like an iceberg under the water. This part of you exists. And you can think you're vibing high,
Absolutely.
and then you could be vibing way down here. And I think we can
Absolutely.
all look at the news and see that any day of the week we want to. We can see
Right.
people that are convinced that they're doing the right thing, and we can see that there's something really difficult or painful or stressful or going on. So you do have to be humble about this work, because you are trying to connect to a pure radiant awareness, and many times there are obstructions.
Right.
Now, as an astrologer, and as a student of karma, there's also another aspect that even the ancient people saw, that there was something coming through from before people were born. So not just their subconscious, but something even more
Right.
kind of deeper, more hidden.
Right.
And I don't want to kind of be a know-it-all and say, oh yeah, we all definitely have past lives. What we use as we're calling them past lives, we don't really know what it is.
Right.
We know that there's an energy that we can see, and we can mention it to people, and we can see their behavior is echoing this energy. And all of Joy-Tish, the Eastern astrology, and the Western astrology have ways of looking at that, right? So there are levels you're vibrating that can create issues in your life. We could call it karma, although karma is not a system of justice in the sense it's not a punishment, it's not a condemnation. It's not you are wrong and now you're going to be punished. It isn't has nothing to do with that. It is cause and effect. So
Right.
if you are, as you brought up, if you are and vibrating a certain type of energy, there is an effect it has. Like if you vibrate, for example, greed, you
Right.
are going to get poverty. That is what happens.
Right.
Greed, poverty.
Right.
So, it doesn't mean you have to go give away all
Right.
your stuff. It does mean you have to start to become energetically generous,
Right.
energetically kind,
Right.
energetically giving, and if you can do those things, there's a very predictable energetic response, which is
Right.
abundance. But every once in a while, and this was when we started out talking about the resistance, you, me, everybody who's ever been read, we're going to come to a pocket of resistance. We're like, I wanted life to be like this. And life's like that. And it's like, wah, I don't like that. I mean, I wanted it to be different than that, and then we have a resistance, when we're
Right.
like resisting wisdom, we're resisting, comprehension, we're resisting seeing the truth, you
Right.
know.
I think you did tell me that I was stubborn at one point.
Oh, oh my God. If I
Why
listed
are you
all
not
the good
just doing
things
what I'm
about
telling
me in
you?
my bio, but I could have listed all the resistances and you would have had a laugh. It would have been like, really?
Just to go back to my original question with this, I do think it's important that if people are going to seek out a practitioner, that they are very that they take it as an opportunity to glean something from it, as opposed to think that it's an absolute. And I think that if that's something that's really important, as I said, because I've had so many people read me, and I was like a junkie. I was like, I'm going to go to this one and this one. And I can tell you, the majority of them were not accurate. They said a lot of things, but they weren't accurate in what their predictions were. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So,
you're as a reader, you're always fighting the ego. Like the
right,
ego has to go to one side. If, there's a temptation, we could call it a temptation, to start to experience some of these mystical sort of events where we have a prophetic dream or something like that, and then go, oh my God, I know all now. And I can tell you 100% of the time that is not the case. Like you have to, the person who's reading has to approach it in with curiosity, putting their ego
absolutely.
aside, trying to be open, trying to
Absolutely.
understand. When they don't understand or they aren't sure, they have to tell their client, like, I'm not sure what
Absolutely.
this means, but I'm seeing this.
Absolutely. And I think also one of the things that one of my teachers said was the reader, their lens is only as clear as their vessel, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, everyone's reading through a lens, the lens of their culture,
right,
the lens of their own personal journey, the lens of their trauma, the lens of their triumph, whatever
right,
it is. So if we're from another culture and we're reading, and that culture is misogynist, for instance, we might read that, say, a woman is going to have never going to be able to overcome some kind of weird thing that they're saying. And that's a cultural
right,
lens they're
right,
looking through. So yeah, you have to really be humble and release your ego and try to learn from the person that you're reading as well as read them. Now, the person who's being read, okay, just like if you went to the doctor and the doctor said, well, this leg's going to have to go, you wouldn't be like, okay, whatever you
let
say,
me get a
doc.
second opinion.
Yeah, well, you'd be like, why?
Right.
Why? Like, first of all, tell
Right.
me what's wrong with the leg. Why is it? You would be involved in that. I hope you would be involved with that
And
decision.
that's
I
my
hope
point.
you wouldn't give your power away.
That's
Like,
my point.
yeah,
Is to say, take it with a pinch of salt. Look at how you can maybe grow from the information as
yeah.
opposed to my daughter's never forgiven me about being inaccurate about who she was going to go to her prom with. She's still
Oh my God.
she's still saying, but you
I
were
would
wrong
never
about
handle
who
that
you
question. Who
said.
I'm going to the prom with, I'd be like, sorry, kid.
Don't know.
That's your
I should
choice.
have said I don't know. This is what I think, but it's not an absolute.
Hindsight is
Now I
2020.
know what to say. Amy, can you share an example where besides me, where you've seen your practices make a huge impact on someone's life?
Well, people, I think one of the most interesting things about reading is sometimes you're reading something and you don't quite understand what it means, but you learn to trust that if it's coming through to you, that you should tell that person. And then it'll turn out that that is very interesting to them, or they'll come back and they'll be like, oh my God, right? You don't necessarily, when you're reading, get the whole picture. It kind of reminds me of that scene in The Matrix where the psychic is telling Neo that, you're not the one, you're not the one. And then that actually propels him into being the one. It was like, he had to actually release that, kind of weight. So you're not quite sure how your words are hitting sometimes.
No, but
You,
also with you though, you bring everything in. So you read, but then if I'd say something, then you'd bring in another dimension or another teaching in order to explain. So that's why I read everything because it's not just you don't just take the cards and you read the cards, you
yeah.
bring all of your knowledge into what's in front of you. Like it just gets downloaded, to what
Yeah, I mean,
person needs
I
to
think
hear.
an area that I've been able to help people, a couple things, I mean, that are recurring that turns out to help them. Sometimes you have, say, a couple and they have opposite north and south node. So, like, for instance, one really wants to have children and the other one does not want to have anything to do with children. And now they've decided to marry each other and you're like, oh my God. And so they have to come to a kind of compromise. The person that wants to have children has to kind of let go of that other person participating with the children the way they had maybe thought someone should. Like maybe they want a super hands-on person, but this person's not that interested. So they might have to come read the kid a bedtime story and then, like a Victorian father or whatever, and then leave. And then they have to then on the other side of things, the person who is not interested has to understand that it's very important to their partner. And they have to and once they have that understanding, sometimes they can kind of see it in a new way instead of
Mhm.
two egos struggling for dominance, like this is how it has to be. We have to have children, or
Mhm.
this is how it has to be. I never want to see him again. Like they have to come to a kind of compromise of how do we do this in a way that will work, you know?
Right.
Now, another thing that comes up often in readings is people's past lives. People's past lives, I would say, if I wanted to get to know someone on a deep level, like see what they will really do, I would look at their past lives. Because if they've been very, very powerful in their past lives, right, they are going to exhibit that energy almost like unconsciously. So I'm going to give you an example of one of my favorite people, David Bowie, because he has a great chart. But he has his past lives, for example, his past life was in the 10th house of fame. So when he comes in, he just kind of knows how to get attention. Like
Right.
whether it's the tiniest way he looks or he's pouting or what, it doesn't matter what he does. Everyone's
But
like, whoa, who is
he's
that? Like
comfortable
they're just,
in that energy.
yeah, and he's emanating this energy effortlessly. Then what he has to learn, though, in his case, was fourth house energy, which is to be more nurturing, to kind of be more find who your deep internal self is. So not just perform for everyone to get attention, but to actually connect to the real inner artist and to find what it is that makes you unique and individual, and to really express yourself on an intimate level. So you see, kind of as he goes through life, he does form more intimate relationships that are more positive. He does have the mothering thing. He has children. He cares for those children. He starts to channel more into art and more obscure art. He has the choice to pursue wild fame and fortune and just be the biggest thing since sliced bread, but he starts to do more obscure stuff and more kind of odd stuff. So when you hook anybody into that, there's
Right.
a feeling they get like, my God, that's why I do this. Like that's why I got all this weird fame for, like I couldn't seem to stop it. I mean, it was just people paid attention to me and I just was able to really get that, or whatever it is. It could be the
Right.
reverse.
Right.
It could be the reverse.
Right.
And you usually people are having to learn something that is foreign to them, but they
Right.
want to learn it. They're drawn to it. Their
Right.
soul wants to evolve. And that's the thing you do have to trust. Everybody's soul wants to evolve.
Right.
Your soul will take evolvement over comfort.
Right.
Your soul will take evolvement over dignity. Like it doesn't
Right.
care. Like if to evolve means you have to go through a difficult experience, that's what it will do.
Right.
And once you connect them to their past lives, so they understand they have kind of a superpower back there, but also something that's holding them back a little from
Yeah.
really developing and evolving who they are, and once you can connect them to their path, like, hey, you're supposed to learn to do this.
Right.
So notice that in everyday life. Notice when that's coming up
Right.
for you. Notice when you have a chance to have an intimate relationship with this thing, whatever it is, whether it's in Bowie's case, art, and the development of, real caring and love for other people, or whether it's maybe the opposite. Maybe you're good at that loving stuff, but you're kind of scared to go out into society. You're afraid to have everyone pay attention to you. You're like, ooh, don't look at me. Woo, look at anyone but me. Look at her, look at him. Yeah, you'll see that too. And
Yeah.
then you have to kind of
Exactly.
say, but they want it. Like they know it's the right direction to go in. And that's the thing where it's an endlessly interesting thing to look at, because you're looking at people's souls and
It's very
people's souls.
profound.
Yeah, it's very
Very,
profound.
I mean, the work that I've done with past life and changing, stepping into what you were changing, it's very, and we can do another whole hour on just past life
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're like, wow, it's just like I mean, you could do an entire reading for someone just on those 2 points in their chart,
Right.
right? I mean, that's how much information is there.
What's a misconception that people have about you or your work, or what do you come up against?
I think one of the misconceptions is that science and mysticism are at odds with each other, which they really aren't. I mean, I'm interested in science. I minored in astrophysics, in college. And like, so I love science. And to me, mysticism and psychic phenomena is really just a mysterious part of the world, but one day they'll crack it. One day they'll understand what is going on here. Are our on a quantum level, spooky action at a distance is
But
one.
that's what's happening, Amy. That's what
Yeah,
I
I think that's
love.
what's
It's
happening. Yeah.
starting to, this, we really have pivoted and we are really starting to move in that direction. And so while I've been doing a lot of this work or have been aware of this work, I basically said when people would say, how do you know that? I'd go, I was born with it. I don't know. Like it's not something I just went and went, oh, I want
Mhm.
to, it's in my blood, right? It's in my lineage,
Yeah.
it's in my blood. And when they started to bring like meditation and mindfulness into the hospitals and everything, I've seen the progression. It was like, oh my goodness, the West is now catching up with the East, right?
Yeah, right,
So
right.
I love all of the research and that's been done that basically is supporting all of this new age woo-woo stuff that people didn't believe in.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, I was the first one to be like, what? I mean, it's a process of when it starts happening to you, you can't deny it. I mean, it just happens. Like, you see things before they happen sometimes. I don't know why. I mean, I can't wait till they find out why.
Right.
I read about it all the time. Like, I read about every psychic experiment and how does that happen and I try to keep an open mind. And when sometimes people are afraid of this, right? You know, if you're at a party, you can't a lot of the techniques I learned were to try to switch it off. Like, to try to switch it off so that you're not constantly
Bombarded.
reaching people and bombarded. And one, because you can take away energy that is not yours, which I'm sure you've experienced. That's like, I can sometimes tell in a yoga class what the problem is with someone because I feel it in my own body, like
Absolutely.
that empath thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to switch that off right away. I'm like, let's
Right.
not go there. But also, there's a kind of thing you do. This is just with reading. You're getting stuff in all the time. You don't necessarily get a little packet of information like, by the way, here's some psychic information coming in. It just comes in. So you don't know you're getting it sometimes. Like, if you're not paying attention or something, it's just streaming in. And so if you're in a group of people, you might say something like Tourette's of the psychic world, where it just comes out and you don't even know it's happening. And, you've just started going on about someone's divorce and, how difficult divorce is and how painful. And you're actually saying their life to them.
Right.
And they're getting this look on their face, like they're just starting to turn kind of green. And you're like starting to get more uncomfortable and you're like, oh
Yes.
my God, what am I saying? And it's happening and now it's too late. It's too late and you can't shove it back in the box. And so, yeah, social situations when I was younger could be weird, because that kind of thing would happen all the time. Like you didn't know until it was too late that you'd stumbled into
Yes.
some territory that was like, someone would just get upset.
I've done that and been there. And that this is also another whole episode, but it also speaks to how do we protect our energy? How do we clean our energy? How do
Yeah.
we, you know, set an intention if we are like that? How do we set the intention before we go somewhere to protect ourselves? Just from being the empath, or, I've gone to places and gone, oh my goodness, I need to work on that person, and going, I'm here for my enjoyment. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that right now. Right now, I'm going to be in my own bubble and I'm going to do what I need to do. No, I don't have to go everywhere and be working on everybody all the time. Right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so cleaning our energy a different episode, cleaning our energy, protecting our energy, etc. And not allowing ourselves to be bombarded because, as you said, the negative entities can come in, the negative energies can come in. It's not always
Absolutely.
when we're so absolutely open.
Yeah, and that's another thing with science. Like, I don't know what this dark energy is that exists or what that higher energy, I mean, but they exist. So all of the mythology, all of the stories of heaven and
Yeah,
hell, and so they are trying to describe a real phenomenon, but
absolutely.
it's just a phenomenon that we maybe don't understand, but it is real and it can really get out of hand. So the
Yeah,
other uncomfortable thing that happens sometimes is the world seems to be able to shift according to your consciousness. So if you're with certain groups of people, the world will shift into a very heavy energy fast. With other groups of people, shifts. So when you have the ability to sort of pick up energy like this, um, it can be really, a strong ego actually gives you some protection. A strong ego makes you, I don't really care what this energy is around me. It sort of seals you off from it. But what we're doing is we're letting go of the ego all the time. And then we sort of get more information. But the trade off is that if you are in an unstable sort of situation or feeling, or with people who are being unstable, the whole world seems to kind of shift on its axis into a crazy zone that it's hard for me to even describe.
Right.
It's kind of like hallucinatory almost.
Okay, so I will tell you, and this has been through working with us a lot. The one thing that I do believe, I'm not going to say I know absolutely, but I do believe
Yeah.
is that what shifts the darkness to the light is unconditional love, and not bringing in angels, not bringing in God energy. What the God energy is, the unconditional love. And when you go to this up-leveled energy of unconditional love, that is what shifts it.
Wow.
So yes, so I can talk a lot about that because
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time, just kind of even as a child, I would have visions, and then things would come to me, and there would be the darkness, there'd be the whatever, and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get rid of it, and so now what I've realized is out of everything, when we up level and we really just go to real heartfelt energy, that is what will shift the darkness. And I truly believe that that's with anything, everyone. Remember that the greater force wins. So the analogy that I use is a baseball field. If it's in darkness, it's all in darkness. If you have one light that's on, it's still in darkness. If you have all the floodlights on, now it's in light. But
Mm.
the way that those floodlights go on is to raise your frequency to unconditional love. That's what shifts it.
So I have a question for you now. So when you were young and you first perceived these heavy, heavy energies around you, did you strengthen yourself over time to come to that conclusion about the light? Did you experiment? Did you?
I did, and I experimented a lot with protection of white light and angels
I see
and
where you're going
bringing
because
that kind of thing. But then there was a point, and it was pretty recently actually. It was
wow.
not long ago that what happens is that I'll get these images and they just won't go away. My eyes are open, my eyes are closed. I put the light on no matter what it is, and I can feel the forces and everything. And the only thing that shifted it and that makes it go away is just sending you to unconditional love, like really shifting that vibration. But I have to feel it. I can't be in fear.
Yeah. That's very similar to the Buddhist methods or the Tibetan Buddhist methods of creating a kind of radiant light internally and then connecting to that pure awareness and radiating it out. And you can actually, so I'm totally with you on this one. Like you can kind of feel the whole atmosphere shift and calm and quiet, and it will chase out that
Yes.
difficult, painful energy. And in the individual students in class who are having their weird issues, like they might start out angry and then they
Yeah.
dissipate like a
Yeah.
flood of light that goes
Yeah.
through the entire group. So
Yes.
yeah, I totally
So
see what
that's
you're
the
saying
shift, and more about that, right? Because it's the shift of just like when something's going on, then you're radiating unconditional love, but you have to learn to bring that up in yourself, right? I think that the
yes.
journey has been how do you send it out if you can't even access it? So it's how do we access it? What do we tap into in order to be able to bring it up and access it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's brings up the whole journey that anyone who has who has developed these skills has to go through, which is that sometimes that difficult energy is weird, seductive, and magnetic. And so most of us who end up being able to do this kind of work, we've gone through a period where we had to experience like the false magnetism of that difficult energy that draws you in. And then you realize, oh my God, that's like bad food, like, stay away from that.
Right.
you know. So
Right.
learning where that light is.
Right. Amy, what's one small change someone listening, viewing can start with today?
Oh, that's interesting. Um, well, I suppose the most important thing for people to learn to do is pratyahara. So, pratyahara is the yogic technique of drawing your consciousness inward. Think of like the center of your energy body as a doorway that leads to pure awareness or light or the God force, you know. And so, this world is very intriguing. We tend to, when we're walking around it, because we're shopping at Ralph's and don't want to fall over, we're very focused on the external. So we're very focused on how much does this cost? What is that? Do I want it? Do I not want it? And then, depending on our level of trauma or depending on our level of pain, we will also project onto everything around us that internal feeling of either happiness or pain. So some people go around the world, they think it's a great place. They're like, this is awesome. Everything's always been great. And this is great too. And some people are like, ooh, you know, that tree, that tree. I don't like trees. They fall on people or whatever. They're projecting something onto the external energy. So when you do feel overwhelmed, when you are watching the news and they're trying to scare you, because the news is just trying to sell you something, trying to scare you. There's a bunch of people trying to take over the world at all times, by the way, not just now. It's always like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when that is happening and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you're starting to feel stressed, you're starting to feel nervous, you need to draw your energy back in. You need to pull it back in. Now, you can do it formally through meditation. You could be like, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to move light in a circle. I'm going to do all the techniques that Sharon's going to tell me. Like, and I'm going to do them one after another till it works. Or you could just get back to who you are. You're not a puppet to be used by a bunch of people trying to take over the world or to get you to buy something. You have your own agenda. You have a reason you came here. I mean, every soul is important. They came here for a reason. They came here to do work that's very important to their personal involvement and the involvement of all of humanity in the universe and the animals and all the other beings that are conscious. So they have to, you need to pull back into yourself and not sort of constantly be eating a poisonous sandwich of, other people's energy.
And that's everywhere, right? It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It's with everything and everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the number one thing I think people need to do, especially in the times we're living in.
Right.
Because if they spend a little, the stillness, the quiet, the breathing, that is what heals your consciousness. That is what heals your body too.
Right.
So if you can just draw your consciousness in, but some people, meditation is not their thing. They don't want to sit there
Right.
emptying out. But you know what? You can read your favorite book. You could go do a little knitting. You could do something that you love to do. Not what they want you to do, not what whoever wants you to do, but what you love to do. Get back to who you are because you're more than just a human being trying to get through life.
Well, so then let me
Living
ask you,
being. Pardon?
what does up level your life mean to you?
Up level your life. Well, to me, I guess that would mean kind of getting in touch with what you really, really want to do. Okay. Everyone has something they want to do, right? Something that they long to do. And, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? You're stopping you. You're the only one stopping you. Whether you do it on a small scale, whether you do it on a larger scale, connect to the love of that thing, connect to loving that thing, doing that thing, expressing that thing, pouring that thing out. When you find that you're focused too much on other people and what they did to you and what happened with that or back there in the past or what they did to you or whatever, you have lost the thread of what you came here to do and the joy and um, just the pure creativity. Because every human soul is creative.
Well, I shared with you that I started painting again after 20 years, more than
Oh
20
yeah, those
years.
were awesome.
And I, I'm so I just have joy. Like it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this with no attachment to the outcome. It brings so much joy. And then you feel your heart opening up and expanding. And so
Wow.
when you find the thing that brings, or the things that bring you joy without saying, okay, well, I need to do this painting and it has to be perfect, which is how I used to be. It was like, this needs to be, everything needs to be perfect. Is just saying, today I'm going to do this canvas and then that canvas and so this inspiration, you feel your heart opening, and that's up leveling too, right? Which is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Find what brings you passion and joy, and then you're not worrying about everybody else, but you're worrying about the energy that's shifting in you.
And that's generosity. That's abundance. And abundance is, to be generous creates abundance.
Right.
So you're giving your skill, you're giving what you have to see, you're giving your vision, you're giving color, you're giving that out into the world. It's very important to keep that circuit open
Right.
where you keep giving because terrible things happen to people. Crazy things happen to people. They've
Yeah.
happened to me. It's just like, whoa, like
Right.
you've got to reconnect and flow it out,
Right.
flow it out of you. And it's really somebody, you know, whether you become Brad Pitt is not up to you. That is karma. Like, you can look at somebody like that's chart and they'll have some sort of karmic thing. They're evolving by being that being, or getting that
Right.
much attention. Don't worry about whether you get attention. Just worry about expression. Don't even worry about it. Just
Right.
radiate out pure expression and see where it leads you because it's that generosity, that openness, that giving quality that draws things to you.
Right.
You know, it's weird, but it's giving
Right.
things away that brings things to you.
You know what my father used to say? He
Yeah.
would say, because he was very generous, my father, and he would do things for people, and he would say he felt selfish in a way because he got so much pleasure out of helping other people,
Wow. Yeah,
right?
that's perfect.
He got pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
Amy, where can people connect with you, learn more about you, contact you?
Well, you can email me at dreamingforest@aim.com. And, if you want a reading, you can arrange that. So, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah.
Well,
And I basically am just word. I mean, my whole practice has been built just on word of mouth. I don't even have a website. Just people get a reading and then they tell somebody else. I don't even know where they come
right.
from. And like, I just, when people connect to me, then I read them to the best of my ability. And
Right.
then, so that's basically how I started reading a lot of people. It wasn't through a website.
Right.
And again, it just sort of follows the same thing. If you just give what you have to give, if you
Right.
just share that with people, if you tell them, you have some special knowledge, tell them what you know about it. Give them the tools
Absolutely.
they need to be able to express themselves. And then
Right.
that just leads to more and more positive outcomes in your life.
Well, I'm sure we'll have you back in the future because there's so many other topics that we can talk about. But this has been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's
Thank
been
you
great talking to
so much for
you to
being
talk to a
here.
colleague about these things.
And, audience, share with us what you liked about this, what you're going to use, what your takeaway was. Engage us, connect with Amy, and thank you. And I
My
will see you
pleasure.
soon. And I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Up Level Your Life with Sharon. Congratulations on taking a step towards obtaining the knowledge and tools for your well-being and your success. But remember, knowledge alone isn't enough. And true transformation comes from consistent action. So what insight from today's episode will you be able to apply to your life? I'd love to hear from you. Please send me a message. And for more information, please visit my website at www.sharonsavitson.com. If this podcast has been helpful, please subscribe and share. And together we can up-level and inspire more people to live their best life.